7 seconds in, and the lies begin. Not a lot of the textbooks cover those facts. As a matter of fact, if you look at my resources, you'll see several different stories about people that have to go to the districts, have complaining to the districts, have to get new textbooks because the textbooks they have been so incredibly whitewashed, and they just completely erased a lot of the history from the United States. And as far as the American media portraying the United States as, the way it is, of course, there's people in there there is some media made by, leftists, and they portray the United States under their perspective. They want to bring light to the crimes and the bad the bad things we've done in the past, so that way we can not do them or stop doing them, because, in some of those things, it's still issues on today's day. And, we're just all working to make a better world, right? So if we talk about the bad things, we can confess about the bad things, we can begin restorative justice if it's a case of, some crimes. We can begin healing in the case, of bad habits. We can stop our bad habits, but we need to identify them first. Also, a lot of the media that's out there does its own version of rewriting history to put things in a better method, in a better perspective, in a better light. And that too is erasing history. Is that American history? Yeah, it is American history. As well as all the good things we've done. We're giving women vote, Civil Rights Act, everything that's good. History is everything. Everything that has happened. Everything that we remember. The good things and the bad things. You can't just say we've only done the good things, because then you're erasing history. You can't just say we've only done the bad things, because then you're erasing history. Is that who Americans were and are? Not all Americans. Americans are a big variety. We're very, what's that B word that, conservatives hate? Oh yeah, we are a very diverse country. So, yes, we have a lot of racist, sexist, bigots people out there. Yes, in the past, there was a lot of racist and sexism and bigotry. There is still some today. But is that all Americans? No. Even in the past, there have been several heroes. That's why they're called heroes, either in literature, which was their media, either in literature or politically, even historically, every progressive in history that worked towards the overcoming racism and sexism and all the negativities are now remembered as heroes. We have Harriet Tubman that broke the law in helping slaves, escape slavery. Oh, I blanked out completely now. We have Harriet Tubman who broke the law to escape slavery. We have the entire labor movement, who broke the law with their strikes, and we now no longer have 16-hour days as the normal. The normal is 8 to 10 hours. 12-hour days making a comeback. Never really left in some industries. But 16 days is kind of unheard of, which is why when somebody works 16 hours a day, everybody's so amazed, because, nobody should have to be doing that. Though some people will do that temporarily to make extra money, like hourly wage workers and everything. But that's another tangent. Going back to, is that who Americans were or are today? Some Americans, yes, sure. Some Americans are not like that. And the big fight that progressives have, with institutionalized racists and conservatives, is because progressives, we want to completely eliminate all vestiges of racism, all vestiges of sexism, all vestiges of imperialism and ending wars, so that, we may become a holy country. We may become a country that respects human rights down to its institution. Will there be racist and sexist people out there? Of course there will. You can't control how people think. But can we control our government and make it so that institutions that have been established by racist and sexist people and genocidal people and imperialists Can we make it so that it's not part of our current culture and part of our current institutions to be so damn oppressive? I don't want to say oppressive because I'm not making myself a victim here. I'm not making people a victim, but it's not like about a victimhood. It's like, oh, poor me, I'm so ungrateful. No, it's about, hey, this is broken. We gotta fix it. You know, it's not about being a victim. It's just about fixing what's broken. The irony of somebody who's actively trying to erase history, to use a George Orwell quote talking about history and how, you know, the effective way to obliterate people is to deny their history. It's not lost on me or some other commenters out there that I've seen on that video. But, you know, it's like, you cannot obliterate history. Yes, we've done bad things. Own up to it. Let's fix it. You know, like our antecessors left us a broken system. Let's fix it. Let's make it more humane. You know, you can't erase history. You can't erase bad history. You can't erase good history. You know, this is not a conspiracy of the left to make America such a terrible place, and it's just so bad, and we're all such victims. Somebody please help me. You know, like, it's not about that. It's about, like I said, it's about, oh, this is broke, we gotta fix it. You know, and recognizing the tools of oppression is not the same as just like crying victim, boo-hoo, poor me, I'm oppressed, I'm a victim, somebody give me this, somebody give me that, I'm so ungrateful, I'm so unhappy. It's not about that. It's about fixing something that's broken. And then here you see James conflating history with a collective memory. You know, history is the collection of facts. You know, how you remember things, how you perceive things, that does not change on the facts that have transpired, on the things that have occurred. However, the collective memory of how you remember things, that creates your national identity, that creates, you know, this mentality that, oh, you know, we're the greatest nation on the world, we're the best people in the world, we don't need to fix what's broken because nothing's broken because we are the best. And that's the collective memory. And, you know, you can manipulate the collective memory by altering facts that are taught, by erasing history, which is how, according to, you know, James' argument, is how we obliterate a people's understanding of themselves. The opposite is also true. You cannot exaggerate the triumphs and, you know, minimize the bad accomplishment, the crimes. You know, you need to tell things how it is. In telling everything that we've done that was wrong, that's not raising people in contempt. It's being like, hey, we messed up when we did things this way. Hey, we messed up when our culture supported such mentalities. Now we're better than before, and then that's why you should be so grateful to be alive in the greatest time that has ever been so far on the history of the world to live. Things today are, I can't even quantify how many times better than, you know, things were in the past. And nobody on the left disputes that. Nobody thinks that it's worse to be a woman today than 70 years ago. Nobody thinks that it's worse being a black man or a person of color today than 100 years ago. Nobody here is disputing, you know, it's better to be an illegal immigrant today than it was 150 years ago. Oh wait, 150 years ago there was no illegal immigration because we had open borders, because that's what it means to be American. That's what liberty means. It's freedom, and that includes the freedom of the liberty of people to come and go as they please. Closed borders is an inherently anti-American and racist ideal. You know, the first people that were blocked from legally coming to the United States were people that were not white. So the entire culture in the United States is founded on these ideas of racism. So we got to take the foundation off and revamp our entire immigration system, so that way it becomes an American system once again, as opposed to whatever this anti-American, anti-liberty, cowardly system it is that we currently have right now. up until the last decades, so anywhere between the Civil War right up to 30 years ago, you think that liberals and conservatives in the United States agreed that the United States was the best one. So everybody that has ever written something against, the American politics, against the crimes of the United States, against the sexism and the racism and the imperialism of the United States, they just did not exist. Did you just erase them from history? So what happened there? I mean, we even have, decorated generals, from before the Second World War, saying that how American war is a racket. And then he wrote the book, based off American interventionism in Haiti, after he went to the Philippines, after he did other invasions in other nations, and after he invaded Haiti and enslaved the people there in Haiti, he came back to the U.S., all decorated, honorably discharged, and, wrote his books. And in his memoirs, he said that war is a racket. The Americans are imperialists. We have senators in the United States and, civil rights activists and political activists that opposed American imperialism while they were occurring. We have senators that voted no to sending out troops to Haiti in 1915, So a lot of people throughout American history have opposed the American crimes as they were being committed, as they were being discussed to be committed, as they were being premeditated. There being people in positions of power in our country, in our government, that was opposed to that course of action. Did all of us hate America? Of course not. We just don't want to be doing crimes. We love our country. Why would we let our country go and do crimes? Why wouldn't we be opposed to our country committing crimes against humanity out there? Maybe because we love our country. Anyways, James go on to tell about how this country is founded on individual rights, how it's a country of frontier spirits and liberty and unlimited possibilities. And we should not erase this good history of our nation. But the frontier spirit was literally founded on genocides. It was literally militias, which were, supported by the state, and going into tribes where they wanted the land because it was arable, because the land was good, it was nice, it was pretty, there was water, there were resources, there being gold. A lot of the gold rush, caused for massacres of peaceful Native Americans. They weren't there making war with Native Americans. They wouldn't, they were peaceful Native Americans that have already signed treaties with the American government, already gave their land one time, two times, and then the third time, they didn't even raise arms. They thought they were protected. They were gonna go. There are reports of people that, of Native American chiefs that have signed treaties with the U.S. government, and they see the militia coming in, and they're like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? And then he dies because he gets murdered by the militia. That is a history that repeats itself and itself and itself and itself, and that's the frontier spirit. That's literally what the frontier spirit was about. Killing whoever lived in those lands so that you could take them. But then you want to pretend like those lands were empty, or like, it was unlimited, whitewash it as unlimited opportunities and not even mention all the crimes that were done. And then apparently mentioning those crimes, talking about the American genocide, is erasing history? Is exaggerating the faults? Stating facts is exaggerating faults? Wow. I don't like accusing people of lying, but if he's not lying, then he's erasing history? Is he doing that by accident? Is that a conspiracy to a cultural conspiracy of the right for whatever reasons, to erase history? and then dismiss the people that talk about that history, and you just want to say that they're erasing history? This is 1984. Like, seriously, if you haven't read that book, it's literally what it does. They they erase history, and they make it so that the people just believe whatever propaganda they are fed. Like Prager U feeds you propaganda, and people pay to watch that. Man, the beauties of capitalism. This country has not paid for the sin of slavery. Slavery is still legal in 49 states as punishment for a crime. In 2017, Colorado was the very first state to completely abolish slavery in all its formats from its legislature. And that's another, I talked about immigration being a culture and an institution. Like immigration in America, the way we treat legal and illegal immigrants, the whole culture and every single institution in the United States that works under that umbrella of restricting immigration and controlling who can come and who can go, was founded on a foundation of racism. In America, our justice and correction system was the same thing. It was founded on a foundation of racism. And so we need to completely change our culture, our mentality, and most importantly, our institutions in our government to remove this foundation of racism so we can then build a proper prisons for criminals, so we can rehabilitate them into becoming proper citizens of good and productive citizens as well. But that's a whole nother video into how to go that. But we have not paid for the sin of slavery, not yet. We have not abolished slavery under its all formats. In fact, 100 years after, actually not even 100 years after we abolished slavery years after the Haitians abolished their slavery. But 100 years after the Haitians abolished their slavery, U.S. Marines invaded Haiti and enslaved Haitians because the propaganda says they were communists, and we couldn't let that happen. So we enslaved them instead of letting them elect their representatives, instead of letting them, live their lives however they live. We went there, we invaded them, we enslaved them, we put them to work, we completely demolished their entire republic, and we established our own puppet government just so the communists wouldn't live there. Speaking of defeating communism, we didn't defeat communism. Look at Cuba. Look at North Korea. Look at China. We didn't defeat communism. Much less we defeated fascism. We were one of the driving forces in the world that established fascism. From Chile to Brazil to Argentina to Cuba, before Castro, the fascists that were in power, that was us, that was the United States, Guatemala, everywhere, in Vietnam. When they were having their struggles, why was there a communist uprising in Vietnam? Because prior to the Vietnam being Vietnam at the end of World War II, it was a French colony, and then the French, they left, but they left a fascist dictator there so they could keep paying taxes to the French. In Haiti, I just mentioned, we enslaved communist Haitians so we could establish a fascist dictatorship there that, would keep on making money for American companies. And the list goes on and on. Everywhere we've been, we kind of helped the forces of violence become worse. We aggravated more violence in the world than we have established peace. So we did not, that's just wrong. We did not defeat fascism. We did not defeat communism. We fought against communism everywhere. But we've helped fascism in the world grow tremendously. The way James talks about the 1960s as if, the progressive just had to start talking bad about the United States after 200 years and creating crimes where they didn't exist. The way he says it makes you think like nobody has ever said anything against, American crimes. But if you just open your eyes and read some, what's that word? History. You read some history, you will see that you see evidence of people, writers, religious leaders, political leaders, community leaders, just people being people, like soldiers, generals, recognizing that the American policy of intervention, of imperialism, of, whatever it may be, is a racket, is bad, like there being people talking about the crimes of the United States, the racism, the sexism, the genocide, the imperialism. Since we've been doing those things, the voices have always been there. They just haven't really been heard. We've always had the conservatives in our government have always passed authoritarian measures like Aliens and Sedition Act, like our second president passed, and not every other president, but like a lot of presidents would pass some kind of expansion of police power to be able to persecute, to be able to discredit, those peoples that will speak up against these institutionalized forces of violence and sources of terror in the world. And it's so weird how he just talks about, the civil rights movements were so good. We gave blacks the right to vote, the equality, or however, he said that. But, and then he talks about how demeaning, shaming, how degrading, how that's a bad thing. But if we weren't demeaning and degrading and shaming all the racists back in 1964, would, the civil rights movement really have passed? Would, people finally be able to sit in the bus and, drink from the same water fountain? No, of course not. He totally ignores the process which gave us the civil rights movement to begin with, which was by vocally and, verbally and written in all formats, talking about that which is broken in our system and how to fix it, Without degrading and demeaning the racists, we wouldn't have the civil rights movements. Without degrading and demeaning the sexists, women wouldn't be able to vote, So we do have to degrade and demean and, shame everything that's evil and negative. And we need to uplift and praise and, like he said, revel on all the positive things that we have. So finally, I'm just going to end up the video with saying that James just always tries so hard to say, either love it or live it. He never said love it or live it, but he said, don't talk about the bad things we've done. Don't bring the evil we've done to the light. Don't mention the negativities. Think about only the good things. Don't ever change society. Just be grateful for what we get, for what we have. That's not how society works. That's not how the world works. That's not how we better ourselves. If we have a flat tire, we need to fix it. If a door is broke, we need to put it back on its hinges. If a society is filled with imperialism and racism and sexism, we need to talk about those things. So that way we can remove the foundations from our institutions so we can become a proper humane society. And that's basically it. This has been my first counterpoint video. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Any suggestions how to make it better, or any questions, any thoughts, please write down in the comments. Please keep it civil. We all love each other here. I love my country, which is why I'm talk about the bad things so we can fix it. Because if we just ignore the bad things and don't talk about them, they're not going to fix themselves. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.